Hey, Mark, if you had to commit to one whiskey brand for the rest of your life, what brand would it be?
Well, that's a great question, Dan. Hey, this is Mark with The Practical Still, here with Dan Cavallari, and he's got a good question for us tonight. If you had to commit to one whiskey brand for the rest of your drinking life, what would that be? That's
It's a tough one.
That's a tough one. So brand, though, are we talking label or are we talking distillery?
Aha! So now we get to the real. You're getting right off the bat. You're hitting me with fastballs.
This is a big decision.
Yeah, yeah. Well, so I think we could do it both ways here. So if you wanted to go broad, you could pick one distillery because a lot of distilleries produce, whiskey for a lot of different, labels. Mm-hmm. But we could also go down the road of just one brand, one label, one whiskey for the rest of your life. You're getting married.
Yeah, and I think if we say distillery, I don't think you can say I pick Heaven Hill and therefore I can have any bottle that was sourced from Heaven Hill. I think you got to stick to the Heaven Hill official brands. But I like that more narrow question. What brand as in Wild Turkey? Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. What brand as in Evan Williams? Mm-hmm. What brand as in Elijah Craig?
Right.
That's a tough one.
Yeah.
Well, and really the world's our oyster, right?
Yeah.
So maybe that's Lefroy. Maybe that's Lagavulin.
Right. My brain already hurts. We need to stop.
Yeah. I think we bit off more than we could sip.
Yeah.
Because that means we could potentially never have scotch again in our lives.
Yeah, that would be sad.
Wow.
How
we could do one barrel.
Ooh.
Because that way a barrel that starts at Brown Forman could end up at Lefroy.
Yeah.
And then we could cheat that way.
We'd have to trace that barrel's history. Well, we could pick one American whiskey and one Scotch.
Well, I don't know. Then we got to pick a Japanese and an Irish, and let's try it. Let's try brand.
This is going to be a 4-hour podcast.
Yeah, let's try brand, and let's try and keep each other honest.
All right.
Let's see. So it would break my heart if I could never have Henry McKenna again because of my connection to my dad.
Yeah,
and that piece. That would break my heart. Mm-hmm. On the other hand, I don't believe I only ever want to drink either an 80 proof McKenna or the 10-year-old bottled in bond forever and ever and not going to taste anything else. I don't think I'd be happy with that position.
Mm-hmm. So you're already conflicted here.
Yeah, this is going to be a lot of conflict.
Yeah, we haven't even brought up Dickel yet. So boy, we're already off to a rocky start here.
Yeah. Well, I guess these decisions or these discussions often originate with that desert island. Mm-hmm. Thinking in that case, you don't have a choice. The shipwrecks and it happened to have 4 cases of Jack Daniels on it, and that's all you got.
Yeah, right.
So we got to put ourselves in that mindset.
Yeah.
I've been on such a Wild Turkey kick lately. That's certainly a consideration. Also, I'm currently drinking some Russell's Reserve Single Barrel.
Nice. So we're already being optimists here. So we're on a desert island, and we're not stuck with a case full of Boone's Farm or something. We actually get some whiskey. So we're already going from an optimistic angle here.
How about what could you rule out? Like what do you look at and say, well, here's a few I know I can live without.
Well, okay, we're always dogging on poor MGP. Does MGP count as a brand, or would it be like Bullet?
Yeah, I think MGP's a distillery. Mm-hmm. They do have their own brand. I mean, they bought the Remus brand.
Right.
Is it Rossville, I think, is one of their brands.
The Rossville Union.
Something like that. But suffice to say, you're not going to pick one of those brands anyway.
No, and again, I do, not to dog too much on MGP, but it's not my jam. I mean, there's some good ones for sure. But if I could certainly cross that one off the list if I had to limit myself to just one thing.
Me too. Yeah. I'm not going to pick any of those brands either. And then therefore, we won't pick one of the brands we know comes from there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So that rules out a lot. Hell, that rules out a third of their liquor shelf.
Yeah. Hey, we're efficient here.
Yeah, and unfortunately, that means some smaller distilleries don't get to be considered in our epic decision. But,
Right.
But that's out. So that's out. I don't think I can pick as much as I'd want to McKenna. Now, if we do decide it's distillery, well, then Heaven Hill's in play, and there you go. I'm right back in there with my McKenna.
Right.
And then if we stick with brands, Wild Turkey is a brand.
Mm-hmm.
I like that choice because I've really been digging on Wild Turkey whiskey for the last year or so. I also like that choice because there's bourbons and ryes.
Yeah.
I'd hate to go through life and not get to drink any rye whiskey.
Mm-hmm.
So that would bring into play, you could pick Elijah Craig. Now that they have a rye, you'd have a few bourbon options. You'd have the toasted barrel, the small batch, the barrel proof, the 18, the 23, the little hand grenades they sell at the distillery, and you'd have the rye whiskey that's and that's all. So you'd have that. That'd be pretty good. That wouldn't be a bad choice.
No, and obviously it's not like I've been shy about this, but I'd say my favorite whiskey right now is still Booker's, and so that's a Beam product. And so that's
a tough one though. Is that the brand Booker's?
Right.
Or is Jim Beam the brand?
Well,
I think the brand's Booker's.
Well, but then so then I'm limited just to Booker's instead of Little Book and Beam itself, and Baker's and
Knob,
and what else?
You wouldn't care about Basil Hayden.
Basil Hayden's
that wouldn't bother you to leave that.
No, not really.
And there certainly was a Booker's rye, but that's an interesting thing too. So when we make this choice, the question isn't if you can have anything you want to drink for the rest of your life, what is it?
Right.
We all pick Pappy or whatever.
Yeah.
Or we all pick
Stag.
30-year-old Scotch.
Yeah.
The question is if you have to pick a brand and stick with it and live with whatever happens with that brand. That's the question. Yeah. So Booker's is cool, and there's a Booker's rye, but you're not getting any of that. So that doesn't count.
Right. Yeah, and I love Booker's, but I think it would be pretty limiting. I feel like I would want more of a range. I mean, as much as I love Booker's, part of the reason I love Booker's is because I get to compare it to everything else, Yeah. And then
on the plus side, though, it's a serial release.
So all of them are different. Yeah.
They are different, yeah. I mean, they're not crazy different, but they're certainly you're not drinking whatever. You're not drinking Jim Beam White Label every day.
Yeah, but you're never going to get rye. You're never going to get
No, you're not.
No, and that's problematic for me. So I'm on the cusp, but I don't think I could commit.
Yeah. Well, now here's another one. Since you just said something that triggered something. I mentioned having a rye opportunity.
Yeah.
But if you look at something like Woodford Reserve, which neither one of us drink a lot of Woodford Reserve.
Yeah, I'm not crazy about it. Yeah.
But you get the regular bourbons, you get the double oaks, you get the double oaks, but you also they did a malt whiskey, an American malt whiskey. They've done a wheat whiskey. They have that Masters collection or Masters something twice a year release.
Yeah.
That wouldn't be bad, and they have a rye. It's decent.
Yeah. So then you get into like, do I sacrifice the tastes that I know I love for maybe the variety, and that's tricky,
Are we trying to have our cake and drink it too?
Exactly. Yes.
Oh, that's tough.
Well, and also, I mean, I have a few more recent favorites that I think, man, I don't think I could do without, the Old Forester 1920 or the Dickel that I have now grown an affinity for, because those flavors are so unique. So.
Yeah, and there's a Dickel rye, but guess where it comes from?
Yeah, exactly, right.
Yeah.
What about
Old Forester would be a great pick, though. Now it would for me because I like their rye, but you don't like their rye, so you'd be stuck with the bourbons. But holy crap, that's
still pretty good.
You got the 86, you got the 100 proof, you got the Whiskey Row series, so the 1870, 1897, 1910, 1920. You'd love the 1920.
I do, yeah.
You get the President's Choice, if you can get it, which is tough.
Yeah.
They did just release that, and I forget but the 3 bottles that are there, the 150th anniversary bottles.
Yeah.
If you can get them, that certainly plays.
Yeah. But I just don't like that rye.
Yeah,
That's a deal breaker, man. What am I going to mix my seawater and seagull dung with for my cocktail on my desert
on your
island?
desert island.
I gotta have that rye.
Yeah, I don't know. We've talked about a few things already, but I tell you what, I'm drifting back to wild turkey. And you look,
Turkey's
it's not like
good.
I hadn't had. I've had the wild turkey over the years. It's not like I hadn't. I don't know what triggered that I just really dug in. And I'd be heartbroken because if we're talking about brands,
Yeah.
Wild Turkey's a brand, Russell's is a brand. I'd lose out on Russell's Reserve.
Yeah. But I'm just one desert island over, and you could swim.
No, that's not the deal. The desert island is an extra fact. It's an extraneous fact.
Gotcha. Okay.
The question is if you got to choose a brand.
We can't cheat our way out of this, is what you're saying.
No.
Okay.
Well, what's the point if we're going to spend the time? We don't have to do it anyway. We get to drink everything we want.
That's a fair point. Well, I think there is a pretty strong case for wild turkey because honestly, the 101, the rye, the rare breed, the Kentucky Spirit, just all phenomenal, and in a variety of flavors, and so you kind of get the whole gamut there.
And the Master's Keep.
And the Master's Keep. That's right. So
that's a wild turkey brand that's a Master's Keep release.
Yeah. So I feel like that's a pretty strong contender.
It is, yeah.
Not quite ready to commit, but I think that's probably the top contender so far.
Yeah.
Here's a curveball. How about something like Barrel that sources from all these other? Can we cheat that way? Like,
well, I don't know if that's cheating. I mean, we said brand,
right? And they're a brand,
and we did say we rule out MGP, and that would take a lot of brands off the table. But Barrel does. They do have a lot of Indiana whiskey in their lineup, but again, the whole thing is which brand.
Right.
If you got to pick one, that'd be a great one. Now, my concern there is that that's a pretty small concern, and they
small company. You mean
small company, and I think they don't charge as much as they probably could, but they're certainly charging premium prices, and I think that is predicated on the crazy whiskey market right now. If this whiskey market cools off by 30%. Maybe they hang around and keep doing it. Maybe they sell off to somebody else, and Joe Beatrice doesn't have the control he has now. There's some risk to that one outside of just the whiskey. I have no concern about if I pick Barrel, will I get to drink really good whiskey the rest of my life? Absolutely. I haven't had anything yet from them that wasn't really good.
Right.
Even the MGP stuff. But you get a little everything. That really. Maybe we got to split hairs there because they do barrel bourbon, barrel craft spirits, barrel whiskey.
Yeah.
I don't know if that would qualify under separate brands with our rules, but if it didn't, then you got rum in play.
Yeah.
You've got American single malts in play. That's a good one.
Yeah. So you could kind of backdoor this, but the risk is that you may be on the desert island for 50 years, but they may not be around for 50 years.
Yeah, I think so. And certainly in today's market, that seems unrealistic. But there wouldn't be the first time a brand got absorbed by a larger company, and at some point they just didn't see fit to keep that brand going again.
Sure.
So to me, that's too much risk. I mean, I'm already 53. It's not like I'm going to live another 50 years, especially if I drink that much whiskey. But I think I ruled that one out based on market risk.
Yeah. I feel like we kind of glossed over Heaven Hill, though. We should talk a little bit about Heaven Hill.
You got to, but again, that's distillery. So we talked about Elijah Craig. That'd be a good choice. And I think I almost forgot it when I was rattling off the brands before. But for the ultra premium piece to have those 18 and 23-year-old bottles, again, hard to get them. But if you can, they're in your brand.
Well, you can get the barrel proofs too. I mean, that's decent stuff. I mean,
sure, yeah, that's available. The small, even the small. To me, the small batch is really tasty. Now, I don't know if I think I told you, but that the small batch toasted barrel bourbon. Loved it when I opened it. 2/3 of the bottle was in love with it. And then all of a sudden, I'm sipping it a week or two ago, and this weird moldy flavor appears, but both on the palate and the nose.
Interesting.
And as I was doing a back to the bottle video for it the other day, it kind of morphed again into like an old musty gym sock kind of
God
nose. It was like
Yeah.
And at first I thought, well, I must have a bad glass,
Yeah.
dirty glass. So I
Yeah.
changed glasses, but it's still there.
Yeah. Did you have a gym sock in it?
I did not. Did I
Okay.
notice to have a gym sock? nor was I wearing stinky gym socks. So
Okay.
I don't know what's going on. And we're in Colorado. There is no mold here because
Right.
there's negative humidity.
Yeah, it's too dry. Yeah.
Yes, I don't know. But anyway, that'd be a concern for me if I got that few bottles.
Yeah.
One we hadn't talked about. We mentioned Knob Creek as you were going through the brands, but that wouldn't be a bad choice either because you got solid bourbons, you got delicious rye. Mm-hmm. I like the Kentucky style rye where they're almost just barely a rye.
Yeah.
I could live with. I think I could go the rest of my life and drink Knob Creek and be happy.
So the last bit of knob I had was the 15-year that you gave me the sample of, which was excellent. And and I like Knob okay, but Knob is one of those brands that it's like old reliable, but it's not glamorous.
Yeah.
And could I live with that? Could I live without the wow factor?
Yeah, well, I think you can for two reasons. One, they've now begun to release these older age-dated products, the 12 and the 15. Mm-hmm. The 12 make it scarce because Whiskey Advocate made it its number 2 whiskey of the year.
Mm-hmm. So you'll never see that.
Yeah, well, hopefully people aren't paying attention.
Yeah.
But you got those, but you also have a pretty active private pick program. So you get a chance for some variety in there because, pretty much every store that's into barrel picks is doing those. Same with every club. So I think from that perspective, it gives you some ability to get something that's a little bit special out of a small batch brand that isn't that small. There's probably 200 or 300 barrels in a batch. They're not that small, maybe even more.
Right.
I think that'd give me enough variety. Same with the rye. They do the private picks on the rye barrels too.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. All right, so that's a strong choice. So I would say, in my mind, I still think Wild Turkey is leading the pack here, just in terms of variety and reliability
and deliciousness.
But yeah, I would say you could put Knob as a solid second place right now.
What about Four Roses?
Ooh, I didn't even think of that.
I didn't until just now.
Yeah. So here's the weird thing about Four Roses. I've probably owned, I don't know, only 3 or 4 bottles of that at this point, and I've loved every single one. But like you, I'm daunted by their OESK designations and all that stuff, and I don't know. I feel like I don't know that landscape well enough.
Yeah, but back to your point about variety, at least within bourbon. Now there are no Four Roses rye whiskey,
Right.
so if you go that way, you've cast your lot
Right.
to bourbon. But because of those 10 recipes, there's 2 mash bills and 5 different yeast strains, and that's where all those OBSK, OBSOs combinations come from.
Right.
So the cheap yellow label stuff is whatever, all 10 that they don't use for other stuff. Mm-hmm. The small batch is 4 of those recipes. Mm-hmm. The small batch select is 6, and it's at 103 or 4 proof, I forget which, and non-chill filtered. And then you've got the single barrel offerings that are on the shelf, and then there's an active single barrel program for that. And then you have, as you do with Master's Keep. And even in Knob Creek, there's limited editions. Mm-hmm. Now, your chances of getting a limited edition from Four Roses is pretty slim. And I've never even gotten to taste one. By all accounts, they're stellar.
Sure.
So there is a lot of variety within the bourbon just because of that, which is the polar opposite of Wild Turkey, who has exactly 1 bourbon recipe, not 10.
Right.
So you do have that, and you do have a relatively young master distiller, so I suspect there'll be some innovation coming from them.
Sure.
But you certainly give up rye whiskey at that point.
Yeah. I don't know. That's kind of a deal breaker for me, though. As much as I love Four Roses, I don't know. Rye is it's rye. I need rye.
I know. I do. I like it a lot.
What? Okay.
I guess it depends on what, which bourbon did I go to. So if it's a 51% corn, 30-something percent rye.
Yeah.
Well, that's pretty close. I might could live with that forever and not have a specific rye whiskey.
Yeah. Well, we've kind of had this conversation before, casually over the course of our years of whiskey nights, and you always bring up Weller as one of your choices. Where are you with Weller?
That's a terrible wrench you just threw in because I love me some Weller, which is weird because I've only ever gotten to buy one bottle of Weller 12, and that's the top of the line for me. I've never gotten a William LaRue Weller BTAC bottle. But boy, I could go down to just old Weller Antique and I might miss some rye, but I sure would enjoy that for the rest of my life. That's a tough one.
Yeah. So for
there
me,
definitely aren't any Weller rye whiskeys.
No. I struggle with Weller. I do like the Antique 107. I'll say that. I've had the 12, and that was okay. I don't like Special Reserve all that much, which is funny because I've had the Old Rip 10-year, which is essentially, not the same thing, but kind of the same thing, and that was great.
Yeah, well, and that that plays again to how does Wild Turkey have all this variety in one recipe? Yeah, that's one recipe that makes there's only one wheated bourbon recipe that makes Special Reserve, OWA. 12, the Old Rip, the Pappy, all the Pappies. It's all one recipe. It's a matter of placement and barrel choice and age and all that stuff. So, wait, no, not if you do Weller though.
Yeah,
if you pick Pappy, well then you do have a rye in there. Actually, I don't know. We have to split the hairs on the brand thing because that's the Van Winkle Family Reserve versus Pappy. I don't know.
Well, that was going to be my question. Is like if I chose Weller, which I'm lukewarm on. Like, does once a year just like a bottle of Pappy drop onto the desert island?
That's not Weller.
I know.
We said brands.
I know, but it's the same thing.
It is the same thing, but it's not the same brand.
But do I get some? Is the question.
No. These days, you can't even bet on getting some Special Reserve.
I know. That's true.
That's gotten. I've got friends across the country, and I think we have it bad, and they haven't seen a bottle of Weller in years.
You're kidding. Boy,
it's gone.
I bought some for $25 last year, and I think
I've got some I paid $17 for.
Yeah. You've been around too long.
Well, I still have them. We can still drink. Well, you don't even like it. I can still.
I know.
Drink.
Yeah. I mean,
now I'll break your heart though. Here's another brand. So E.H. Taylor.
Oh yeah,
that'd be a good one.
Yeah.
And a buddy from Alabama, I was emailing back and forth with him, and he stopped in. It's a control state in Alabama, so they're state stores. And he went to one that he used to go to before he retired, and he hadn't been in a while. And he goes, I was so excited, I just lost track of everything that was there. And at the time I saw all the E.H. Taylor, I was already holding all the bottles I could hold. I said, well, go back. And this E.H. Taylor small batch was $40.
Oh, my God.
Single barrel 60.
Oh, man.
So that's a brand because now we've got lots of bourbons.
Yeah.
We got a solid rye. We got some crazy stuff in there. We got the Amaranth, Grain of the Gods, and the 4-grain, and the Tornadoes, and you can't get them.
Right.
And that puts you back in that same tough spot.
Ooh, but that's even just the small batch is so good.
Yeah. But now find it. I ran across some last weekend, $79.99 for the small batch.
Okay, that's getting pricey.
Yeah,
but
I'm not going there yet.
I mean, I'm a little embarrassed about how quickly I drank through the last bottle I had of it. So, I don't know. Maybe $70 is worth it.
Not to me.
No?
No, because I can still occasionally find Eagle Rare for under 40.
Yeah.
In the 30s.
Can you, though? I mean...
maybe not. I haven't looked lately because I've got a pile of them in a cabinet. So I haven't really looked.
Yeah. I mean, I've been told even stuff like Dickel bottled in bond is impossible to get now. Which
no, I see it pretty regular.
Do you?
The second release too. I've seen the second release plenty of places.
Pick me up a bottle of that bottled in bond if you see it.
Yeah. Well, and next time we get together to do this instead of remotely, I've got one of the first versions in the cabinet. I'll bring it. We'll drink it.
That'd be fun.
Yeah.
I like when I say something and you say, I've got 12 bottles of that, I'll bring it over. It's like That's the primary reason I do this podcast.
I have to say I like that too.
Yeah.
What do you do? All right, so let's see. I think I'm still hanging around Wild Turkey.
Yeah.
To me, I'm down to. And look, there's tons of brands.
Yeah.
But I'm talking about the stuff that I gotta know I can get to this whiskey no matter what. I mean, we're at the zenith of whiskey popularity right now. Mm-hmm. I can still go get amazing bottles of Wild Turkey or Russell's Reserve. I'm going to lean towards one of those two.
Yeah.
If not that knob, I don't have any worries about the distilleries being able to produce those. Mm-hmm. But then there's certainly smaller brands. But I again, there's too much market risk in that for me to bet my whiskey future on.
Yeah, I mean, I think if it comes down to the two ubiquitous ones, which are Wild Turkey and knob, I think just for me anyway, flavor that goes to Wild Turkey. That tips me to that scale. So that's also where I'm leaning. But boy, E.H. Taylor, that's an intriguing one too.
That'd be just like it was easy to cut some out.
Yeah,
that's a hard one to walk away from. That's like my McKenna. It's just that's hard to say. I'm never gonna get to drink E.H. Taylor whiskey again.
Yeah, that'd be hard. And I think with E.H. Taylor, it's still gettable. It's a little pricey, but it's still gettable. You know, and if I had to stock up on it once a year, mm-hmm. and have it for the whole year, I could pull it off.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's all you got to think about all that stuff because we're not saying you get it for free.
Yeah.
You still got to pay for it. Yeah. You still got to find it.
This is the most stressful podcast we've recorded.
Well, maybe we should. Should we break and think? Want to go blind break?
Let's do a blind break.
This is going to be an interesting one. So we are doing this remotely. Mm-hmm. You purchased a really cool blind kit.
Yeah. So
tell us about that.
Yeah. So Spirits Wine Provisions here in Arvada, Colorado, did a 12 Days of Christmas, a whiskey advent calendar, essentially. And so there was a box full of 12 one ounce samples, and they're all labeled. So this one's the first day of Christmas, the second day of Christmas, the third day of Christmas, and in an envelope here is the answers essentially to what each sample is. So you can do a blind test once a day for 12 days leading up to Christmas. It hasn't started yet. It's not the 13th of December yet. But I'm willing to break the rules.
I saw a friend of ours posted today. He said, based on my whiskey advent calendar, it's 3 days till Christmas. Now, on your envelope there, can you just pull the answer to day one out, or does it spoil everything if you start this early?
It's all in order. So it's got here, I'll show you. I'll show all you people who are listening to my podcast. It's got a 12, and then on the back is the answer. So I could just look for the number of the corresponding day.
Okay, so you can do your whichever number you want. I don't guess if you're going to not wait till the 12 days anyway, you could pick whichever number you want. Mine's a little different because I don't have one of those cool little things. So what I did was I came upstairs to get ready to record. And then I asked my lovely wife to take a glass and pour me anything on the shelf except Lafroig, because that wouldn't be much of a challenge.
That'd be a little giveaway right there.
Yeah, and this is going to be, I think, doubly difficult because there's a pile of Wild Turkey stuff open. There are rye bourbons, wheated bourbons. There's a little bit of everything sitting there. So
this could be interesting.
And I have not nosed it, and it's sitting far enough away that I can't smell it. So once we do that, at the end of the blind break, I'll have to text her and let her text me back what it is.
All right.
So blind break.
Yeah, before we go to the break, though, pick a number between 1 and 12.
Oh, Earnhardt.
8?
No, Senior. 3.
I don't know these things. All right, 3 it is. I got number 3.
Well, let's give a sniff before we go to the break.
All right, I got to open mine. So these are fancy.
Okay. Now I just have to think, what Dickel is open on my cabinet?
All right. Well, mine's sealed with wax here. So hold on. They did a real fancy.
He
job
waxed them?
Yeah.
What a pro.
Yeah.
I can't stand wax, but that is Alfred, because he made a bunch of those, and he made them all himself, didn't he?
Yeah.
Or they did in the store?
yeah, Casey and Emily, his wife, they did them all in the back there, and they got a little crock pot full of wax, and they did each one by hand.
God, it's so pro.
All right, I can't smell anything out of the actual sample bottle, so I'm going to pour it.
If you guys don't have, and look, everybody's got to buy whiskey how they buy whiskey, and some of the big stores have lovely selection. But if you haven't made the effort to find a store like Casey and Emily's Spirits, Wine, and Provision, it's a beautiful store. It's a small store. It's locally owned by people that actually care. Emily is, from my understanding, an amazing wine person.
Yes. Yeah.
Casey has become quite the whiskey fan, and if you just hadn't found that relationship, you're really missing out on a big part of what, at least what I like about whiskey.
Yeah, and if you spend enough time in there, and frankly, if you buy enough bottles, you'll find you become friends very quickly. And Casey and Emily are wonderful folks, and they make it a very welcoming atmosphere. And so that's where I buy my bottles, just because I love the experience of going in there.
Yeah, cool. Okay, so before we go to blind break, we're going to nose a little bit. I think I got a pretty good head start on what I got in the bottle. Oh, that's good.
Ooh, I don't know. Mine's sweet. It's nice.
All right. Well, blind break. We'll Dan and I'll sniff and swizzle and think, and we'll take a break, listen to the blind break sponsor, and then we'll be back. As a whiskey aficionado, you're likely drawn to intricacies and experiences that others miss. The Acadian offers everyday carry products from their workshop on the coast of Maine. From handcrafted pins to finely stitched leather products and more, priding themselves on crafting high-quality products with a Maine flair. You could use any pen and paper, but doesn't sipping your best-loved bottles while making tasting notes with a pen built for top-shelf reflection in a notebook covered by handcrafted leather sound so much more inviting? Of course it does. Visit theacadian.me today and use promo code STILL15 to get 15% off our favorite fine writing instruments, journals, and more. And don't forget to take care of your whiskey glasses with a set of the York's leather coasters. Come on, we're not animals. All right, we're back. I don't know. I'm dialed in on mine. I'm desperately thinking through what's on my shelf to try and figure out what's left there. Dan, what are you thinking on yours?
I haven't got a damn clue. It's got a really nice nose. It's a light nose, but it's really pleasant. And the on the tongue it's very fruity. So I don't know, man. I have no clue what this is. I don't know that I've ever had this, whatever it is.
It's got the color's nice. In fact, that's awfully dark. At least across the old internets. It's
zoom dark. It's actually got kind of a Weller's color to it. It's kind of a little bit of a golden wheat color up close, but definitely darker. I mean, it's not. Oh wait, that's an interesting flavor that I just got a blast of. It's like a lingering chocolate.
Ooh, lovely.
That's quite good. Whatever it is. This is going to end up being like Weller's, and I'm going to kick myself or something.
Well, and there you go. Look, that's the whole reason we blind taste things.
It's true.
And the reason people don't blind taste things is they don't want to step in it like that.
Yep. I'm always willing to step in it.
You're not even going to guess? You're just going to dig through the envelope?
Well, I'm just pulling out the answer. I haven't looked at it yet.
All right. Well, I'm gonna tell you that as best I can remember, I have consumed all of the other Dickel distilled product except the barrel bourbon, that EWS number 2 pick.
Ooh, that's a good one. That's a really good one.
I'm going with that.
Okay. You got it. So you have to like text your wife downstairs to see. Okay. All right. You send that.
I could be a bonehead and yell down there, but that's poor form.
That'd be hilarious, though. I'm going to take another sip of this. It does kind of have a wheat nose and the taste, which is interesting because I usually kind of bristle at wheated whiskeys. This smells.
Did you say wheated?
Wheated. Why did I say what way? I know. Whatever it is.
That looks awful. That looks dark to me to be Weller.
I think so. Yeah, I don't have any idea what this is. I like it. Whatever it is, I like it. And I don't think I've had it before. That's the thing is this is when I tasted the Dickel and I said, oh, this is something new. This is something different. This it's not as overwhelming as a Dickel flavor, but this is definitely a mellower, softer, different flavor for me. I don't know what this is, but I like it.
One of the things I regretted the last time you blind break me was not starting wide and thinking more narrow. So back up a bit. Do you taste anything remotely like mint or dill or herbs?
No, that's not. Okay. It's more fruity.
So not a rye then.
Yeah, probably not.
But by the way, the text is in, and I was correct. That was the barrel bourbon.
Hey, high five.
Dickel sourced whiskey.
Oh, nice. Hey, that's a treat.
and you might think, well, Dan's at a disadvantage because he has 12 possibilities and he doesn't know what it is. That's true, but I have 18 open bottles of whiskey down there, so it wasn't like it was a gimme.
You got process of elimination though, and it was Dickel. That's not fair.
Yeah, it's not like she picked one of the 6 bottles of Wild Turkey products that are open down there.
I'm not sure what this is, but I think I can confidently say I've never had it before, and I can confidently say it is not a high proof, and it is not it's not a high price bottle. I would say. Okay. Those are my 3 guesses, but I have zero clue what this is.
And you tend to find that grape note in younger whiskeys. Do you get any of that in there?
Barely, but yes. Very, very late in, as it hits the back of my tongue, and it's quick. So I'm not sure it's exactly young. And there's a little bit of a funk on the back of this, right as it lingers on the back of the tongue. It's got a good finish.
All right, well, let's open the envelope.
All right. Number 3 is, oh man, while I was correct, it is something I've never had before. It is Old Grandad Bourbon 114 proof.
Are you? Excuse me. I'll bleep that out. I'm just from the man that doesn't like Basil Hayden. You seem to enjoy that whiskey.
I do.
And it is the same whiskey.
Right, but what it is that Basil Hayden's has a note in it that is just I think I get it in this too. It's that funk that's on the back of the tongue, but with Basil Hayden's it's much bigger and in your
wiggle out.
No, I'm completely eating crow here. I like
that. I love that Old Granddad 114. I think that is especially, and I have to admit I haven't bought a bottle of that in years. But I think the last time I bought it, I paid $25 for it.
I knew this was going to be one of those things where I had to go totally eat it on this.
Well, and that's not totally Eden Crow.
No.
So it is the same mash bill. It's the high rye bourbon mash bill from Jim Beam. It's not what's used. They use the low rye for Booker's, Baker's, all those. So it's a high rye mash bill. Now Basil Hayden, the standard is a 40% whiskey. I mean, there's not a lot of alcohol in there.
Yeah,
80 proof. Geez. You're talking about 114 proof. Mm-hmm. So there's a pretty big difference. There's probably, I don't remember if I can remember the age difference because neither one of them are age stated. There is a Basil Hayden 10, but that's not what you've had before, I don't think.
Mm-hmm.
So that's interesting.
I'm getting now I can really, now that I know what it is,
there you go.
I can associate.
Now that it's not blind.
Well, no, but I still like it. And here's the thing. It's I can taste the same funk that I don't like about the Basil Haydens. Mm-hmm. I can taste it in this, but in this, it's just a more pleasant package. I don't know what it is. I don't know.
And I'll give you that because you did call it. You called the funk on the back end of the palate. So
help me wiggle out of this, Mark.
you called it, and I think. Look, I mean, proof matters.
Yeah,
age matters, and frankly, I would imagine Basil Hayden gets a little better treatment and better barrel choice than the Old Granddad line does.
Yeah, you would think.
Because I mean that's the top of the heap in Old Granddad, and it still sits on the bottom shelf.
Yeah, No, and I don't know. Maybe that speaks to my tastes, but I prefer this to Basil Hayden's.
Well, I just think, again, I just encourage people to blind taste, even if you do it, and like I did tonight. And I've done that before. I just asked Melissa to walk over and pour me anything.
Yeah.
I think she's trying to be nice to me, because the first time I did that, she poured Weller, which was I picked it, and then this time she picked the Dickel based product, so that was perfect.
She treats you too well, man.
She does. She is. You know what? She's wonderful in all sorts of ways.
Yeah.
She also loves whiskey.
Yeah, that's a problem for you.
It's how I got around that whiskey budget thing this year.
Fair point. Well, hey,
okay, so good blind break.
Successful, yeah.
That's fun.
Yeah. Old granddad, who knew?
Well, nobody did until just now.
Yeah. Now we all know. No, I'm stoked on that. Now I'm gonna have to get me a bottle of that, and I don't have to spend a lot of money to do it.
That's true. Make sure you buy it from Casey, since it was his 12 days of Christmas.
Yeah, I think I will do that.
Cool. All right. Well, I'll tell you one thing. Back to our topic of the brand. Mm-hmm. Sipping on this.
Yeah.
Your thought of maybe choosing barrel and my reticence to do that due to market risk, I might get past that, because this is delicious,
isn't it?
I could not ever drink. Well, no, I don't have to give up rye, because they do rye. They do rye and rum, yeah. So yeah. I might live with that market risk for this good whiskey, because everything barrel does is barrel proof and unfiltered.
Yeah,
this is delicious.
I gotta say too, and so here's what I'm holding up to Mark here is the bottle. So we were supposed to have another whiskey night, and it had to be canceled due to the pandemic. But I've got this, and this is also from Spirits Wine Provisions. It's a barrel whiskey private release, Kentucky whiskey finished in a pear brandy cask. I don't like pears at all. I could drink this all day long. This is fantastic.
Oh, good.
Yeah,
I've not picked up my share yet. We got to figure out a porch pickup for that.
Yeah, but honestly, I don't even think I've had like a slightly hedging toward mediocre barrel bourbon yet, or barrel whiskey. I mean, they do such a fine job. So, yeah, I mean, all stability aside in terms of business and pricing and all that, I mean, if I went into a shop and saw a barrel on the shelf and had $100 to spend every time, I would not hesitate.
Yeah. There's a confidence there that I share that with you. And I don't know, I think maybe I'm rethinking that too. I'd hate to not ever drink any Wild Turkey. I don't think they sell barrels. So I don't think barrel's going to end up having some Wild Turkey distilled whiskey in their bottles. But you don't give up much if you can get past that idea. And look, maybe my market risk theory is completely ridiculous, but you don't give up much in terms of variety, because you're going to get a little bit of everything in a barrel.
Yeah. I would put that in a top 3. So I would say that the top 3 contenders. I mean, we're getting to the end of the show here. I think we can start narrowing it down. But I would say my top 3 contenders right now, and this breaks my heart because I do love Booker's, but I would say it's between Wild Turkey, Knob Creek, and Barrel. For me anyway.
I'm with you. I think it's the same. It's the same for me. Yeah. There aren't any. I love Scotch, but there's just not any Scotch that I'd be willing to bet the rest of my whiskey drinking life on.
Yeah. I would miss some peat for sure, but but I think I could give it up for everything else.
Yeah, I think I'm with you. I'm racking my brain trying to think of something else that might fit that.
All right, so how do we break it down to one brand?
Well,
we have to choose before the show's over.
For me, I can't live the rest of my life drinking Elijah Craig.
Yeah.
I could live the rest of my life drinking Old Forester. But it doesn't get up high enough to displace Wild Turkey. Mm-hmm. And I can't believe this, but I'm sliding into that barrel camp with you.
Yeah. It's deceptive, right? It's a dark horse, but it's
sexy because, I mean, heck, I've still got a little bit of a barrel release that's 13-year-old Alberta, Canada produced rye that is delicious. Mm-hmm. If I pick barrel, I get to keep drinking all that stuff.
Yeah. Yeah, and I've still got that 14-year the EWS number 3 pick, the one. So the Dickel that you were just drinking, mine was the next barrel, or the number 5. Sorry,
You were 5.
yeah. I only have a 2-ounce pour of that left, so I'm sad about that.
Yeah.
But I also have this pear brandy cask finished bottle here, which is fantastic. I mean, I don't know. Barrel's making a strong case here.
It is, but I'm out. I'm calling it for myself. It's Wild Turkey.
Yeah,
Yeah. Not.
We'll put you over the
Not
edge.
Russell's Wild Turkey. It's just too good every time. I get the rye. I get the special release, the Master's Keep. I get some variety across, I get some non-chill filter action going on with Rare Breed, some barrel proof. I get a little bit of everything. I get a single barrel with Kentucky Spirit. The store picks in play. And it's got history.
Yeah.
I can't bet against one of the last living great distillers from from the early golden era of bourbon. So.
Yeah, man, and that's the thing too. I think, boy, I'm really on the fence, but Turkey also has the cachet, and the history, and so much of bourbon is about that history, and boy, that counts for a lot. But I don't know, barrel. Ooh. I feel like with barrel, it's like scratching off a lottery ticket every single time. It's like, what am I going to get this time? Yeah,
I agree. I said, but remember, it's not that you get it for free. There are no guarantees. So having tumbled from on high myself before, should my fortunes turn, I can still go get me a bottle of Wild Turkey 101.
Ooh, yeah, good call.
And be happy.
And the rye, yeah.
Ooh. And if my fortunes turn and my only choice is $90 to $100 bottles, I might not be drinking a whole lot of bourbon.
And also, man, that Rare Breed has been pretty reliably excellent.
Yeah. And look, I don't want to push you. I want us to make our own decisions, but I'm solid on mine.
Can I? Okay, here's my one ask. I'll commit to Turkey, but can I just take one bottle of barrel with me? Just one. Just one. Just one.
No.
Damn it. All right, fine.
And, well, let me rephrase that. If you can drink it before you make the call in the next, 12 minutes before we're done.
Well, I could do that. I don't know how coherent I would be by the end of those 12 minutes. Oh, that is agonizing. That really is.
What if I threw one little bone to us and said, you got to pick.
Yeah.
This is it forever.
Yeah.
The market is what it is. Your finances are what they are. You got to be able to buy it. But you can pick one friend and share whatever brand they chose.
Oh, well, that changes everything. Because I know
the barrel.
I know exactly which friend I would choose. How about that? Well, I guess in that case, I'm going with barrel. It's funny how our fortunes just expanded just then, didn't it? Isn't it?
Yeah. Well, I was kind of iron fisting it through there and making sure we stayed on track.
Yeah.
You were struggling, so I wanted to give you a little bit of latitude.
That was hard. That may have been the hardest decision I've ever made in my life.
All right, so now here's a lightning round. Forget the brand. Pick a distillery. One distillery.
Ooh, okay.
Barrel's not a distillery.
Right. Oh, okay. So for me, that comes down to probably Beam or Heaven Hill. Because Heaven Hill has one of my favorite ryes. And it also has the bottled and bond, which I really love. But Beam has...
Gets you back in the Booker's game.
It gets me the Bookers, gets me Bakers, gets me the Little Book. Ooh, that's tough.
And if we really want to stretch, it's not actually Jim Beam. It's Beam Suntory.
Ooh, yeah. Oh,
which
man.
Takes you back to Japan.
Yeah.
And some fine single malt Japanese whiskey.
That's tricky.
Oh, which just reminds me,
Yeah.
Wild Turkey makes a bunch of really cool stuff they sell in Japan and overseas that we don't get. So I'm in for that too.
So turkey's back on the table. I think in this case I would probably but then I have to do without Pikesville if I choose Beam. I sure do like Pikesville. Oh man, that's hard.
This was supposed to be like a rapid fire wrapping up kind of thing.
All right, Jim Beam doing it because I love Booker's, man. I love Booker's.
Yeah, it is tough for me because I want to just say I'll stick with everything produced by Wild Turkey.
Yeah.
So then I get back into Russell's, which is nice. But if I slip over to Heaven Hill, I get my McKenna back.
Yeah.
And I have a ton of bourbons to choose from, plenty of rye whiskeys to choose from.
Yeah.
And you know, if we want to branch out into other spirits, there's plenty of that. On the other hand, well, no, we said distillery. Campari owns Wild Turkey, but that's they're not the distillery.
Right.
Yeah, I think
you're gonna go with Heaven Hill. Well, because so does the choose a friend thing still apply?
Oh yeah, so if we don't have choose a friend, I go Heaven Hill. If we have choose a friend, well, no, you were picking Beam.
I picked Beam.
Then I guess because I like you, I'm your buddy. I'll pick Heaven Hill, and that way you get to keep drinking Pikesville.
Oh man, that's jumping on the grenade. I like that.
All right. Well, if it's brand, I'm gonna stay on my Wild Turkey train. If it's not, then maybe I jump ship to Heaven Hill.
Yeah. Oh boy, that's tough.
That turned out to be harder than I thought.
That was really stressful.
Yeah.
But I think that also just kind of really speaks to how many excellent whiskeys are out there and how many we've tasted in just the last few years.
Yeah, and what's left to taste. Because this, we tended to focus tonight on hedging our bets to make sure there was something to drink. But gosh, there's all these other small distilleries popping up that are doing really cool things.
Yeah.
You don't want to bet your future on bolder spirits just because they're small and new, but that one bottled and bond you had was delicious.
That was great. Yeah,
I'd hate to not get to drink that for the rest of my life. And luckily, this is all nonsense we just made up.
Yeah,
we don't actually have to make this decision.
Yeah, these are our own dumb rules.
Yeah, and it's over once we sign off on this podcast. Yeah. This is no more, and we can go back to drinking whatever we want to drink.
I'm probably still going to have nightmares about this, though. I'm traumatized from this.
Yeah. Well, don't. Well, look, if you found this an intriguing thing, let us know what you think. Go to the Instagrams, the Facebook, The Practical Still, on the website, thepracticalstill.com. Hit the ask button. It's not really a question, but fill out that form and let us know where you are on that. Or find Dan on Twitter at Brown Tie Dan or me at Uphill Still. Let us know what you're thinking. What brand would you pick if you had to pick one brand forever? And then free. You still got to buy it. It's still got to be available. It's got to be accessible. What would that brand be?
It'll give you nightmares too, I promise.
Yeah, we don't mean to do that. It's the price you pay to be thought-provoking in whiskey.
Yeah.
Cool. Dan, anything else?
No, I think that was fun. Thanks for taking some Skype time with me.
Yeah. I enjoyed it. And look, everybody, if you like what we're doing, give us a thumbs up on that podcast and a rating, and those things help a lot. We certainly appreciate it. And then let us know what else you'd like us to talk about and any whiskey we might go buy, because maybe we don't want to buy all this whiskey, but if you want us to, we'll go buy the whiskey.
We'll do it for you.
That's right. Awesome. Well, thanks, Dan.
Yeah, thank you, Mark.
Talk soon. Cheers.
All right, cheers.